Hello and welcome everybody. Yesterday we had a patch notes 1.06 on Crimson Desert. Let's get right into it. So the update schedule, this is now available pretty much everywhere as of yesterday, so it should be available for you today as well, except for maybe the Mac App Store. There apparently it's still in progress. But starting out, we have a few new things. So we have new additions. Certain animals can now be registered as special mounts after gaining their trust. This includes bears, boars, wolves, deer, mountain goats, cuckoo birds, iguanas, raptors, camels, lions, and tigers. Ferocious animals can be tamed by subduing them and feeding them, while certain species require unique methods to tame. Feeding untamable animals will not affect their trust level. I did briefly try it with a boar. I tried hitting it a few times, but they always just run away. You might need to look at getting the, calming outfit, so the camouflage outfit, and then getting close. That could be the solution there. You can also feed your mount while riding it by selecting food items from your inventory and choosing feed. I think this would mostly count for the bears at least, and wolves, where you can jump on the back and then briefly ride them. They also added a tab for special mounts in the inventory UI, fixed the mount quick slot so that only one mount and one special mount can be assigned. Saddles no longer appear as part of Special Mount's default appearance and can now be equipped. So mount equipment can be equipped in the Special Mounts tab, and saddles for Special Mounts can be purchased at different saddleries. So here, for example, we have Hernan for wolves and bears, the Equinture saddlery, deers and wolves, saddles for bears and cuckoo birds in Calfade, Demonis has cuckoo birds and deer, Payloon has bears and ibexes, Delicia has the warthogs, Tommaso has it for iguanas, and the Varnia saddlery for camels. They also added an extraction feature that allows you to recover materials used to refine equipment. Materials used to refine equipment can partially be recovered. This feature can be used by interacting with smithies in various regions. Extraction can be performed for a single refinement level or all the way back to base, which is the equipment's refinement level when it was first acquired. Extracting equipment only affects its refinement level and does not destroy the item, and equipment with a base refinement level of 4 that has been further refined to 10, and the extraction results. Extracting it back to refinement level 4 will recover the materials used to refine it up to level 10 and return the equipment's refinement to level 4. The quantity of recovered items will vary depending on the type, so special materials such as artifacts, Assyrian scales are recovered at 100%, and common materials such as iron ore, copper ore, bloodstones are recovered at 70% of the amount used. So overall, you do get your artifacts and scales back. They also added a new unarmed combat skills for Unka, which is select fist from the skill menu to see the new skills. Unarmed skills for Damian will be added in the next update. They also added sheaths for swords, so they added a display sheath option that lets you choose whether your character's sheath is shown. They also added a sigil of valor for pet dogs. This can be purchased from the secret NPC in Pororan. It will actually allow the dogs to attack enemies. And they added a claw machine at the Laughing Marionette. There are 12 types of lighting items, one type of chair, one type of special headgear, abyss gears, and abyss artifacts. Moving on, we have improvements to certain equipment such as Visiones, so they can now be enhanced, and sockets for equipping abyss gears have been added. The number of sockets matches pretty much the default for helmets. However, some equipment and cuckoo equipment have fewer sockets than the other equipment of the same type. Adjusted the elemental resistance of certain cloaks to better match their characteristics. I am hoping there is going to be a bit more frost resistant ones. They also fixed an issue where certain comrade missions did not restart automatically. They fixed an issue where pets could not be summoned in certain situations. Fixed an issue with the sweet taste of bounties could not be completed when progressing in a certain order. They also fixed an issue where the Saute of Bond would disappear from recoverable items. Additionally, Saute of Bond has been reissued, so this will pop up when you start the game. They also fixed an issue where the Iron Eagle could not be tamed if it was not tamed on the first attempt. They added the Clean All, Butcher All, and Obtained All Seeds function to the inventory. They fixed an issue where horse tack could not be dyed in certain situations, added new ways to obtain previously unobtainable knowledge for certain factions, changed refinement using identical equipment so that it is only available up to the level immediately before an Abyss artifact is required, improved certain items so they can now be stacked. The affected items are furnitures and ornaments, Cliff can now wear some of Unka's outfits. This is quite big. And the Greymane cloth armor is now also available for Unka. Combat and action, they improved the default stance and movement animations when fighting unarmed. They've changed the blinding flash so that it can now be used even without a weapon equipped. They added additional effects when firing two-handed cannons, adjusted the base attack power of two-handed cannons as well, improved chain attacks that follow the unarmed combat skill of roundhouse kick, improved targeting when aiming ranged weapons at small animals, fixed an issue where these certain bosses would take excessive damage when struck with heavy objects, fixed an issue where arrows could not be fired after loading the game, even when they were in the inventory. Then controls, they've improved convenience of objects placed on the bookshelves during housing decorations, added an animation that plays when you fail to turn a large valve all the way, improved climbing over windows so that it can be done from either side while hanging on a wall, improved camera angle so that after following an NPC for a certain period of time, it automatically adjusts to align with the player's direction of movement again. Further, we have some UI changes. They fixed some issues where certain input prompts were not displayed depending on the input method, improved the character customization and die menus to display the amount of currency you are carrying, added a search function to the skills menu that allows you to search for specific skills, improved fishing so that the relevant guide is also displayed while waiting, improved the UI of research institutes to make it more intuitive, fixed the issue where the UI would freeze in certain situations when changing customized presets for keyboard and mouse. Graphics and settings, they added a night tone mode. So when enabled, overall colors become softer, darker, and shaded. Areas appear slightly brighter. And when it's disabled, overall all colors become sharper, and darker and shaded areas appear darker as well. Mac, they improved the HDR support deflection for each display so that the HDR can be enabled on supported external monitors and will not be enabled on unsupported monitors. Also on Mac, they fixed an issue with the GPU crashes would occasionally occur during gameplay. Then they fixed an issue for rendering at the really big resolution of 5120 by 2160. Fixed an issue where colors would appear inverted when using photo mode in certain situations. Fixed an issue where enabling HDR would disable the direct to play and improved HDR quality. Fixed an issue where adaptive triggers options and settings input was not being applied correctly. Fixed an issue where games would close when changing the HDR frame generation option while playing the game with an external overlay programs. Fixed an issue where waterfalls would appear unnatural at certain distances. And they fixed an issue where the headgear on-off option was not displayed when selecting the body tattoo option at the barber. Localization, small thing, they fixed various localizations, nothing too crazy there. And then finally, we have some other changes. This is one of the big ones. There's going to be a lot of fixed an issue. So they fixed an issue where the contribution equipment would disappear from recoverable items. One where the collar area of the elegant carmine leather armor could not be dyed. For Damien and Unka, where face and body tattoos were not applied after applying them and reloading the game. And where the equipped horse tack would appear in Cliff's horse tack slot. On Damian herself, there was an issue where Damian was unable to equip a scythe. Then there was an issue where fish would not bite when the hook was cast into certain areas. They increased the selling prices of fish, increased the chance of obtaining obscure blueprints at certain strongholds, dispatch exploration and excavation missions at strongholds, as well as dye house labor support missions can now be carried out repeatedly. Then there was an issue where books could not be examined while on horseback. This is now possible. Then the elemental meteor kick would not execute properly. Unka's explosive leap would cancel before landing, and Unka would stop flying when a ranged attack was quickly cancelled while airborne. And Damian could not use the counter when equipped with a greatsword. Focused charge shot could not be used while airborne. Focused evasive shots has been improved so that the reload animation no longer plays if a shot is not fired. Then the repel could be used with a spear even if it had not been acquired, and the spirit was not consumed when using certain grappling techniques. Lightning surge would not be maintained depending on the selected evasion control option. Relevant effects would trigger in certain situations even with the Electromecha longsword was not drawn. Then there was an issue with the speed of monsters in combat decreased significantly. Certain monsters' attacks would be interrupted when they were attacked from far away by a player. The giant green iguana could not be struck. Then there was an issue on the counter stance would get cancelled even if there was enough spirit remaining. The boss's stun gauge has been fixed to slowly recover when the player leaves the combat area. They also fixed boss behavior so that bosses now quickly return to the combat area after leaving it. Further, they fixed an issue where the warning message for leaving the combat area would be displayed incorrectly during rematches against certain bosses. Fixed some issues where the character would become invisible during rematches against certain bosses, and the boss combat area indicator would occasionally remain on the minimap and the map when loading a save during a rematch. Further, they applied some bug fixes and improvements. There are some spoilers here, so we'll get back to that. Same thing for certain quests, but yeah, we'll scroll back up for that afterwards. They fixed an issue where the mission would be cancelled after saving and loading the game following dispatch to certain strongholds. Additionally, any contribution points spent on cancelled missions have been restored. They fixed an issue where viewing a stronghold in detail in the current stronghold mission UI would be displayed incorrectly. Fixed an issue where fishing shop would buy items from the player at higher prices. Fixed an issue where players could cling to friendly NPCs while airborne. Fixed certain situations such as the cuckoo guarding pack not being useful. Certain sanctums could be cleansed without the fusion reactor cores. Players would respawn on unnatural locations. If the wagon of the player was driving collided with an NPC, a passenger on the wagon would attack that NPC. Fixed an issue where NPCs would sit at the same chair as the player. Quest log to be immediately updated after rescuing bound Palinese refugees. Greymane NPCs would say hostile lines to a player. They've adjusted positioning of weapons worn at the waist to appear more natural. Then there was some issues on the aiming animations would occasionally repeat abnormally when aiming the bow at a jail. Same types of animals would not be displayed with different prices. Fixed an issue where passengers of the Iron Crawler were placed in an unnatural way. Certain plants could be obtained endlessly when using the Cuckoo Gardening Pack. Improve the quality of certain outfits. Fix some issues where the game window could be moved or resized with the mouse input while playing in full screen mode. I actually had that happen. Rain could be seen indoors while using photo mode. Certain issues where water from certain waterfalls would splash in unnatural directions. Certain objects appeared unnatural. Rendering issues. Blackstar's breath would occasionally cause frame drops. Camera would shake when locking onto a target while riding a mount. Audio would continue to play after a cutscene. And guards could not be attacked with a combat mount while in wanted state. And the game would load indefinitely in certain save files. Jumping up to the fixes. So there was some lock-on was unavailable for acid spiders. Then there was a rematch for the Titan. Titan would stop moving if the player moved too far away from the combat area. The player could occasionally be unable to attack the Dreadnought from behind. Then some issues on the Storm and Thunder Crusher. The Abyss Gate would not disappear upon entering the Chamber of the Awakened Caliburn, and some unintended combat pattern would trigger on Muradin. On the quest, there was an issue on the Face the Inner Self from Chapter 9 and Damien's quest to obtain the Sword of Starlight were active at the same time. The character switch message would appear repeatedly when attempting to enter the Young Temple as Cliff or Damien. And if there was an issue where a mission would be cancelled after saving and loading the game, following dispatch to certain strongholds. Finally, we just have some known issues, and with that, we are done. Let's continue to have fun in Pywell. So far, I'm still loving it. There's still a lot of stuff to find, and I'm really enjoying it.